Now this artifact here, this blue sweater, this is a two-part story. The first part of the story is, this was made by the Jersild company, which was a Danish-founded company, and it belonged to William McDonald, and his grandfather was the national salesman for that company, which was founded by his grandfather's half-brother. You can follow all of that. So we have a personal connection with the sweater and William. And then the second connection is, in researching this family connection, I also discovered that William was used in a very dangerous and intense medical experiment. His mother was born to a Danish immigrant, and she became a nurse and married Hugh McDonald, who was a doctor. They had 4 boys at first. Richard came much later. And in 1933, Hugh McDonald decided that he wanted to test the whooping cough vaccination on his 4 boys. So in consultation with several doctors across the nation, he and his wife gave 2 of the boys the vaccine for whooping cough and did not give the vaccine to the other 2. And then they quarantined their boys in the apartment for 4 months with their mom as the nurse. And they deliberately infected them with the pertussis bacteria. They sprayed it into their nose. I don't know which 2 were the fortunate ones and which ones weren't. But the 2 that received the vaccine did not get sick, and the 2 that didn't got very sick, which proved, 1, the vaccine worked, and 2, that that's how the disease was spread, because there was still some debate about that. And the 2 sons got very ill, and 1 of them nearly died. So William was involved in that experiment, and then that story was written about in Reader's Digest, actually, the January 1943 issue. And then a couple years later, Hugh McDonald decided he wanted to try the polio vaccine on Richard here, but Edith, his wife, had had enough, and she said, once in a lifetime is plenty. So poor Richard didn't get to advance medicine the way his brothers did. Now we have a fairy tale quilt. This was made by the, let's see, this is a postcard of a quilt that hangs in Odense, Denmark, to commemorate the city's 1,000-year anniversary. It was made by the Lincoln Park quilting class in San Francisco, California, and apparently inspired a lot of people to make copycats of this work. The first copycat that we have in our collection is Elva Schack's quilt. Her name was Elva Verney Schack. She was born in Harlan, Iowa to Danish immigrant parents. And she was inspired by this postcard, bought a copy, and decided to make her own without a pattern. You can see it's not quite an exact replica. I like how she changed the thumbelina. In the original quilt, thumbelina is flying a butterfly like a kite, but she prefers the sweet one where it's in a shell. And she also apparently preferred the little match girl as a fairy tale because that is not the original quilt, and she added it in place of a different block. Let's go back and tell a little bit about Elva Schack herself. She made the applique box, but she could not finish it because she became ill, so Julie Larson of the Prairie Star Quilts in town finished the quilting for her. And it was entered into the Tivoli Fest quilt show in Elkhorn in 1993. And she won first place posthumously. We have her participant ribbon and her first place ribbon also in her collection. And after that, the quilt was displayed at the Prairie Trails Museum in Harlan for the Log Cabin Day event. And in June 1996, the Danish Immigrant Museum loaned the quilt to the St. Paul's Episcopal Church in Harlan for the church's centennial, because the maker of the quilt was a very active participant in that church. And their father was Danish immigrant Louis Schack, who worked in Iowa creameries and later became a prominent businessman in Harlan, Iowa. This is the second copycat. It's made by Dolores Jesperson. And you can see it's really very stylistically different, but the similarities are there. This is Oi. Say it louder. Thank you. It's basically a Sandman type character in Hans Christian Andersen fairy tales. And she went with the butterfly theme for the Thumbelina compared to the last quilt. So.